Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wellzest podcast. You are in for a delight today because I have Jennifer Payeur, and I have been waiting for this episode because there is so much that I want to learn about plant stem cells, and I can't wait for you guys to learn all about it as well. Let me introduce you to Jennifer. So Jennifer is a passionate advocate for the healing power of nature. After experiencing a life-threatening health issue, she left a 29-year career as an executive in financial services and embarked on a journey of self-discovery, reconnecting with the inherent healing properties of plants. In 2019, she founded Nature Provides, an innovative plant stem cell company. Her mission is to educate and empower others on how these unique plant remedies detoxify, strengthen, and rejuvenate the cells in the body, bringing vibrant health to the individual. She also wrote a book called Ancient Plant Wisdom: How to Improve and Maintain Your Health Using Concentrated Plant Stem Cell Remedies, and filmed a documentary, wow, titled Nature Provides: The Ancient Wisdom of Plant Stem Cells, in support of her mission to educate others on healing holistically. Jennifer, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, you company founder, documentary creator, author, you are just doing all the things, which is amazing. I am just so jazzed. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
It is such an honor to be here. And, you can take the girl out of corporate, but sometimes you can't take the corporate out of the girl, you know?
Right? Yes, these are facts. Same for me. And we were just bonding over the fact that, yeah, that journey of corporate. Actually, my corporate job, my first corporate job, I was actually in Charlotte working for Aetna and health insurance, and have come a long way. But I always talk about that corporate experience as being something that was really valuable for me at
Yeah.
the time, because I just learned so much about how a company operates, the systems and the infrastructure that you need. And I've taken a lot of those lessons to build the businesses that I have today, which I'm very, very grateful for. Speaking of your corporate journey, being in financial services for almost 3 decades, walk me through the person you were 3 decades ago. Who were you? And, what were maybe some of the early life experiences that you feel like shaped who you are today?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm going to go back just a little bit further because I think it really sets the tone of why I am where I am today. So as a kid, I was the kid that was out in nature all the time. There wasn't a tree I wasn't climbing, a creek I wasn't in, an animal I wasn't connected to, right? And I was the kid that was like laying in the grass, looking up at the stars and making constellations or making animal shapes out of the clouds. And then I fast forward and I get to college and I was somewhere between being a teacher and a doctor and a therapist, right? Those were the three things that really lit me up because I really like to help people. And, I grew up in a family where, being a teacher, too much bureaucracy, being a therapist, too strange. Yes, go be a doctor. And so I started out in pre-med and then realized, wow, this is 20 more years of college and that's not really my path. And so my mom said, well, great, you're good with math. Why don't you go into finance? So that's how I ended up in finance because I was one of the women that was good in math. And I found myself 4 years later sitting at a desk under fluorescent lights and not moving all day long, right?
Worst fate. I hate.
Yes, right. And so this went on for years, and I also found myself always traveling. So I did a lot of corporate travel, international corporate travel, pretty much in that fight or flight for years and years and years. So 30 years ago, I came in as this very connected to nature young woman, and I quickly lost that connection. And I believe that's a lot of reasons why people get sick. So that's where I started, and that's where I am today. I'm back with my love of nature, my connection to plants, getting outside, doing all the things that are actually healing for us versus sitting mobile at a desk, not moving in front of a piece of technology.
I resonate with that so deeply. I was actually a wilderness instructor for about 5 years. and everyone else was getting internships in offices, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Like I was like, I just can't, I can't. And when I finally did the same thing, pre-med, but was in biomedical engineering as a pathway through to pre-med, and looked around at my life and looked around at the people who were working the jobs that I was, training to get. And I was just like, this is not the thing. This is not going to work for me. This is not going to work, and I feel like we discount how important it is to be in nature. How has, I'm just curious in your journey to reconnect with nature, how do you feel like being someone that really resonates with your surroundings, with nature, how does that change and shift how you move through the day, how you think about work and relationships? Walk me through that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we are nature, right? At the end of the day, we are, just a mirror of nature. And so the way that it's changed my life is reconnecting is I look at nature is always in balance. And when a hurricane comes or a drought comes, nature adapts, right? They don't dig in and say, I'm still going to do it this way, right? They actually, nature will actually start to flow. And so I have, a window this way, a window that way, and I can see outside. And you watch a tree, right? A tree is rooted and grounded, but it sways with the wind. It changes color. So it's that adaptive nature. It's being in the flow. So one of the things that's happened as a result of the health crises I went through is I am in the flow of my life. And my life has never been more abundant, more magical. I could go on and on. I mean, I'm one of those people, I wake up out of bed every morning and I'm like, yes, another day, woo. And I certainly was not doing that for 29 years. It was like, oh, here we go again. And so nature has brought me back, I believe, to the core of who I am, to that little girl who was vibrant, joyful, alive, curious, looking at the magic in life. And, I'm going to be 60 in a month, and I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm 30.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Congratulations.
feel so
Wow.
young and vibrant and everything else. So,
What you are, like, facts. You are all of those things. Facts. Wow. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, I know you went through, I think, two health crises.
yes.
If you don't mind sharing, what happened? And how did you first know that something maybe wasn't right in your body?
Yeah, well, that last question's an interesting question. So the first health crisis happened in 2008, and that is the one where I had pneumonia, bronchitis, shingles, tachycardia, mono for the second year in a row, and I was finally diagnosed with chronic fatigue. Now, at that point, my lymph nodes were the size of golf balls. And my body had been giving me messages that I continually overrode. We're not really taught how to listen to our body. And actually, I grew up in an era where, don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. No pain, no gain, right? So the messages were override every message your body gives you and you just keep plowing through. And that's what I did. And that's when a book fell on my head called Hands of Light. So here I am. I come from the doctor's office. I have all these things going on. I've been given Ambien and prednisone and Xanax. I need to chill out, and I just kept getting worse and worse. And I finally said, okay, something has to shift in my life. So a book fell on my head,
Literally,
and
literally,
literally 3 shelves up. I'm looking like, how did I get sick? Why wasn't I listening? All this, and a book falls on my head called Hands of Light.
that is the wildest. Thank you, universe.
This is the magic that I'm saying is I truly, and I believe we all are, I truly was divinely guided on this path. And so I read this book that I had purchased maybe 10 years prior, cover to cover. And on that Sunday night, I looked at my husband. I said, guess what? I'm going to a 4-year healing school. Now, at that point in my life, I was working 20 hours a day. I don't know how, 20 hours a day raising 4 kids. I'm not sure how I did it, how it's physically possible, but somehow I did it for 9 months.
Wow.
9 months where I was traveling from Charlotte to Boston, 20-hour days. I'd come home on Thursday night, and then I had to be super mom because the guilt literally was eating me up for being gone. So that was that was number one. And that led me deep down the natural healing world. So I went to the 4-year healing school. I
Okay.
did a 2-year study with the 13 indigenous grandmothers, which really connected me to nature. Yoga certified, medicinal aromatherapy. It was like, you name it, I did it. And I was doing it on the sly, which is really funny.
Oh my goodness.
So I
You're
was doing
living
this
two
in the
lives
evening.
pretty much.
I was living two very distinct lives. And I did end up changing jobs. And when I did, I negotiated 60 days off a year to be able to go to healing school, which was fabulous. And the universe started saying, okay, we're going to conspire to get you into your purpose, because I certainly was not aligned to my purpose. So fast forward, I graduate healing school. I left corporate for 3 years. And at that point, I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. So I was given all these options, and I chose to really do nothing. I said, I'm going to change my lifestyle. I'm going to leave this stressful environment that I'm in. And for 3 years, I was very healthy, very in balance, coming back to myself. And then I started having visions of wearing a suit. And a month later, an old boss called me. He was the only man I would go back and work for in corporate, and I went back into corporate. And 3 months later, I had stage 4 cancer. 3 months. Cancer takes 8 to 10 years to form in the body. And I went from basically benign calcified cells in my breast to full stage cancer, lymphatic, liver, breast. And then it was like, okay. And so I got the message. And at that point, it was like, okay, you've got to come back to you. And it's really fascinating, when we get out of integrity with ourselves,
Yes.
and the mirror that comes in that says, hey, no, you're not supposed to be living this way. You're not living according to your purpose. And so I view it as the biggest blessing in my life, because it radically changed everything. And in the documentary, it was hard to watch my kids say, wow, we got a whole new person. Like, my mom was very intense and, type A and, irritable because I was working long hours. And I was a whole new person when that happened. It was an invitation to come back to my integrity.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because I feel like this is a really important moment that happens to so many of us. That boss calls you and says, hey, will you come back? And this is not the thing. What, was your subconscious saying, hey, don't do it? And maybe what drove you, if you don't mind answering, like what drove you to make that move? I feel like sometimes I've been there where I'm like, this is not the thing, but I should. It makes sense financially, whatever it may be. And I feel like it's a conversation that we often don't have as humans, and how sticky those situations can be.
Yeah, I had convinced myself there was some unfinished business in corporate that I had. That was the
Okay.
message I had given myself, because I'd had the vision of wearing the suit. So I had attached my vision of, oh, that was a premonition. That's something that's meant to be. And in hindsight, when I went to healing school, Barbara Brennan, the founder of that school, said, the more you come into integrity with yourself, the more you're going to get tested. And I think
Ooh.
I was tested on a big scale, and boy, did I take the wrong step.
Oh man.
However, however, all the magic that came in after that time, it was divine timing. It was divine. It was so, divine in so many ways.
I love that you said that, and I love the test, because I think that oftentimes the universe is testing us to say, okay, you said you were serious about this, but are you really serious about it? And I think that there's something powerful to recognize that, and to also to reframe it in a way where, it becomes a positive catalyst in your life, where it's like, okay, hey, maybe I didn't do, I went down a different fork, but that's okay. Like that is life. And that fork led to other things that, helped to shift you into the person that you are today. Uh,
Yes.
Walk me through what happened next. So how did you even discover plant stem cells? What was the first moment that maybe as you were on this journey of discovering plant stem cells, you're like, hey, there's actually something here. I may be onto something.
Yeah, so I left corporate in 2017. At that
Okay.
point, 29 years is a long time to spend in an industry. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm still young, I'm still vibrant. Where do I go from here? And
Right.
I had developed a deep love of essential oils. And so I ended up starting really more as a hobby and to fill my time and space with started an essential oil company called Ancient Plant Wisdom. The words ancient plant wisdom kept coming to me over and over.
Right.
And so I did it just kind of for fun and as a hobby. And then in 2018, so a couple years after I left corporate, 3 years after my big diagnosis, my cancer markers were going up. And that's very common for a recurrence. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, my life's in balance, everything's aligned. Why is this happening? Right? Because I want to know the purpose of it. And so a friend called me and said, why don't you come work with my husband? He's, worked with a lot of cancer patients and just kind of see what's going on. And I did a session with him and I stayed at their house and he came out with this bottle. And he said, Jennifer, this has saved a lot of my patients' lives. And very casually, I had no connection to me whatsoever. I just said, well, what is it? And he said, it's embryonic plant stem cells. And in that moment, it was like this bolt of lightning came through the top of my head, through my whole body. And I looked at him and I said, I don't know what you just said to me, but I need to know everything there is to know. And I became like a frenetic maniac. What are they? How do they work? Why do they work? I need to know. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm asking these questions. It was like something overcame me and I couldn't even, it wasn't even me for a few minutes. And he started laughing and he said, well, there's a training coming up in 3 months for doctors. You're not a doctor, but you're a holistic health practitioner. Why don't you call and see if you can go? So 3 months later, I flew to Hawaii and I went through a week-long class. And on the last day, the prior owner said, and I'm going to be selling the company. And here comes that same bolt of lightning. So literally a week-long class with, by the way, no product at all. It was all up here. I get to the Honolulu airport. I call my husband and I said, I think we're buying a plant stem cell company. And he
What was
said,
his reaction? Was he like,
he's
are
like,
you
are
crazy?
you kidding me? He's like, you just went to a class. What are you talking about? And he's like, stop, just stop. And I'm like, I don't know. It became like this, just overwhelming knowing and
Mm.
this message of you've got to trust. And so I came home and I meditated literally for a month. And I said, I don't know what
Wow.
this means. This can't be possible. And the message I kept getting is you are the steward of these plants. You are here to bring them out to the world. So I picked up the phone and I called the prior owner and I said, put me on a protocol. I want to see what happens. And I was, kind of skeptical but curious. And 2 months later, my cancer markers were back in the normal range.
Wow.
And the message I got is, girl, you are the steward.
Right.
You've got to step up. This is your mission. And this is
Mm.
why you went through, and I have goosebumps all over. This is why you went through what
Wow.
you went through.
Me too. Oh my
And
gosh. Oh, that gives me. Let me ask you this because I feel like this is something that I've always. What was that inner knowing like for you? How did you feel in your body? Or was it a voice? Like, walk me through how that felt if you can recount that experience.
yeah, it's often either words or a saying, but in that moment, it was a full body. I mean, I call them angel bumps. I had goosebumps all over my body, and
Wow.
things were coming out of my mouth that I didn't even talk that way, right? It was like something came through me.
Wow.
And it was like this deep wisdom, this deep connection, and this light. And that is, as an intuitive, that's what I saw is the plants were bringing light into the body where darkness prevailed. And we all have darkness, right? We have big
Right.
traumas, we have little traumas, we have missteps, we have all these things. And, and we go dark on ourselves.
Right.
And when I go back and look at pictures of me, and I'll send you my befores because it's shocking. I look 20 years younger today than I did 10 years ago because
Incredible.
my eyes are dark. I don't have vitality or life force. And
Right.
I think I was dying. My soul was like, come on, you're either going to step up or step on out.
Oh my goodness. This is wow. What a profound. I mean, literally that. Wow. 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 I want to talk about the technical aspects of it. So, what are embryonic plant stem cells and how are they different than just, traditional
Regular.
tinctures or extracts?
Yeah, so plant stem cells come from the new growth on the plant in the springtime.
Okay.
So, you live in California, I live in North Carolina. So every spring the trees come alive, right? New blossoms come on the plants. So it's in that new growth
Okay.
that all of the stem cells of the plants reside. And so those are the messengers that tell the plant to grow a leaf or part of the bark or a flower, no different than a human stem cell. So that's a question I get asked often is how is this different? And I'll go through that in a second. But they contain something called juvenile phytohormones. So baby light hormones. And there's that light piece again, right?
Right,
And so
right.
they do three things in the body. They are known as drainage remedies. So they are going to clean up the cells, the tissue, and the organs. The tissue is going to be your fascia, for example. So it's going to clean up all of that. It's going to clean up the extracellular matrix, which is our communication network in the body. And then they're going to regenerate things that have broken down. So in that baby bud, and the analogy I use is, broccoli is really good for us, but broccoli sprouts have something called sulforaphane, which is fantastic for chronic illness. And the adult broccoli has trace amounts of it, not enough to really make a difference. So that's the difference. So those baby plants have vitality and life force energy and regenerative energy that adult plants don't have. Adult plants are like us. They get weathered. They get weathered by life, right?
Right,
And
right,
you go
right,
out and you
right.
see your plants and you see the leaves, they're kind of withered
Yeah,
sometimes.
they've been through some things.
They've been through some things, just
They've
like
been
us,
through
you
some-
know? But then
exactly.
you look at a newborn baby and they
Yeah,
are like bright-eyed and
bright-eyed.
they are just like I'm on top of the world, right?
Exactly,
They
exactly.
are just happy and joyful. And that's the difference is these plants are happy and joyful and bringing light and cleaning up the body and regenerating and restoring what has gone dark.
Wow. What are some of the other compounds or signals that we should know about, that our audience should know about when you, for example, are designing formulas? What are those signals, those compounds that you're looking for, that you're leveraging in the budding plant tissue?
Yeah, so when I do formulas, I work with the aspects of plants that have an affinity to organs and systems in the body. So, for example, we know milk thistle is good for the liver. Well, so is rosemary, so is artichoke, so is dandelion. So, if I'm creating a formula like liver detox, then I will want to have at least one of those plants, if not, more than one in that formula.
Okay.
So I look for what the affinity of that plant is. And that's what I want to do is create a formula that will address the entire system. So, any imbalance, there's anything with an itis in it is inflammation. And there are a lot of practitioners that say all illness starts with inflammation. So then
Yeah.
I would add something like a black currant in there because black currant's the best plant for inflammation.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've always heard turmeric, the curcumin from turmeric. Is
Yeah.
that no blackcurrant?
The issue with turmeric is it's not bioavailable in the body. That's why they add pepper to it to drive it into the body. But black currant is
Oh,
super bioavailable and it's full of vitamin C and it's one of my favorite plants.
that's so wow. Done buying. Add to cart. Add to cart. Did not know that. Amazing. You start to get into this. We're talking about, so everyone hears plant stem cells and they think of human stem cells and human stem cell treatment and some of the technology and advancements there. What are some of the marked differences between plant stem cells and human stem cells?
The difference is really where they're sourced. So human stem cells often come from, from babies
Right, right,
or
right.
or from our own bodies, right? So now they're able to extract stem cells from our own tissue and then inject it into a knee or something like that, right, to help create stability
Right.
and heal the knee. So these are all just coming from plants. So the mechanism of action in the body is similar in the regenerative pieces. The difference is that human stem cells are not cleaning up the body. They are
Mm,
regenerating, right? So they're
got it.
helping to recreate something, not to clean something out. And the other piece, I believe, is the communication aspect.
Right, right. Very interesting. I keep hearing this term, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this spageric extraction.
You did
What?
not butcher it at all.
Oh, did I not? Whoo! I was like, oh man, what?
It's great.
What
Yeah, what
is
the heck
this?
is it?
I'm like,
Yeah.
what does
So
that mean?
it's an ancient alchemical process that goes back
Okay,
400 years from a scientist named Paracelsus.
okay,
And what it is after the plant material macerates in whatever your solvent is, we use organic grape alcohol and organic glycerin. They pull the plant material out, they press it, they burn it in a
okay.
100-degree Celsius oven, 120 degrees Celsius. So that's really hot. And then
Right.
they extract the minerals and the cell salts from the ash and put it back into the tincture. So now you've got all kinds of oligo elements, minerals, and cell salts, which mimic our body in the tincture. So
That's
you're
incredible.
literally, the plant is meeting the human body on the same level.
Wow. Wow.
And our scientific director, by accident a couple of years ago, had the water from that process, and he was walking by a blue light in the laboratory, and all of a sudden he looks over, and it was like literally this color. It was like this vibrant blue in the test tube. And he said, "Oh my gosh, what's that?" And it was the spagyric water from the process, and
Wow.
it was luminescent, luminescence. So he literally put it under the microscope, and he could see the sacred geometry in that water. And so that's a whole nother discussion of, okay, you're not just bringing in plant elements, but you're bringing in something a lot more.
Wow. How incredible. I'm curious, just in your own experience, when did you realize you went through 4 years of schooling, had your own experience, going through that training program. When did you experience with a plant stem cell or have a tincture, whatever it may be, and you're like, this is actually working? And in what was that, extract or whatever it was that you used in that moment where it was kind of like this aha, like this is it?
This is it. Yeah. I ended up starting with about 20 of them, which I don't
Oh, you did.
recommend. It was
Okay.
a lot.
Right.
I still take a lot because, we're living in a pretty toxic world. But
Yeah.
my labs, I'm very much into being divinely guided and led. But I also
Mm.
wanted to see my labs to see those cancer markers. And when I saw that they were back in the normal range, I said, okay, something pretty magical is going on here,
Right.
because the only thing I've added in my life are these plant stem cells.
Wow.
So I literally now, 10 years out from that diagnosis, I really focus on my organ health, right?
Okay.
We're, again, our food, our air, our water, everything is suspect right now in the US. And
Yeah.
I just want to keep my body clean and pure and happy and joyful. And, I will say I never got COVID. I'm around a lot of sick
Mm.
people. I never stopped working. I've had relatives sick. I just don't get sick. And
Wow.
I had gotten a very interesting message. So I also channel the plants. That's another
Mm.
interesting,
How
beautiful, unique skill.
how do you do this? Walk us through that. I'm endlessly fascinated.
Literally, so I will sit with somebody and the plants, I literally will hear the plant tell me I can help. And
Wow.
sometimes, like in the beginning, I would have to go look up the plant, like why that plant,
Mm.
to really understand why that plant. And it was like perfect alignment, absolutely
Wow.
perfect. So I'd be sitting with somebody who would say, I'm having a lot of digestive issues, and I would hear figs say, well, I can help. I'll help clean up the gut and help them come back into balance so they can digest everything happening in their life, right? I would hear this whole long channeled message. And so I would put somebody on fig, and they would come back, 3 weeks later and say, oh my gosh, I don't have this, I don't have that. I feel so much better. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
How so powerful. I mean, how can, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, I love what she's saying, but I'm not sure, and I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
How would you guide them? Maybe what are maybe 3 no regrets things that someone could try, and even maybe how can they mentally approach using plant stem cells in their life?
Well, that was part of the reason I wrote the book is,
Right.
I started getting a lot of people requesting, support. And I'm a big believer that, it's about empowering ourselves so that we can make the decision. So I teach muscle testing. I teach a lot of different ways that the person can connect. But I believe that it's really important to have a relationship with the plant. Just that extra giving thanks. So when I work with the plants, I actually, say thank you for supporting my body. But different ways. One is, you can go Google adult plants, like, oh, I have a liver issue. What plants? And there will be a correlation. So, like I said, I mentioned artichoke and I mentioned dandelion and rosemary is another one. I believe our livers are all, fired up right now. So that is almost always something that I use with people. The other big one is we are living in fight or flight. Right, we are a nation under stress. Like the tiger has been chasing us now for 20 years and it's, not going away. So I almost always will work with somebody with their nervous system because of that. And so, I will teach them, there are a handful of plants, California poppy, passion flower, rhodiola, wonderful plants for the nervous system. And then we have a complex called stress free. So for sure, those 2 areas. And then the other one really depends on what somebody's working with. But if, brain fog is happening a lot, tinnitus is happening a lot, kidney issues happening a lot. So then it really depends. But usually those are the 2 foundational areas that I tell people, let's get those in order, because if your nervous system is jacked up and in fight or flight, it's really hard for your body to feel safe to take anything in.
So true. So true. Do you pair the plant stem cells that you use with your patients, your clients, with other practices for downregulating their nervous systems?
Yes. Yeah, and I use nature a lot. So I teach get outside first, when you
Yes.
wake up, go outside, connect. It sets our circadian rhythm. It brings us into a rhythm that we've lost, honestly, with the grind that we're in. That's one. Go put your hands on a tree, right? Fill your cup, fill your cup, fill
Yes.
your cup. That's number one. And then I teach breathing. So whether it's box breathing or breathing in for a count of 4, breathing out for 6, now you're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. It's getting you out of that fight or flight. We hold our breath, right? Human
We do.
beings hold our breaths. We're the only mammals that do that.
Right.
And, so and then movement.
Yeah.
Again, sitting all day and so many people are in desk jobs. I'm like, get up, set your alarm on your phone every 10 minutes, stand up, put your arms over your head, do a little dance, right?
Yep.
As Casey and the Sunshine Band said,
Yes.
do a little
Do a little
dance, move your
dance.
body.
Yes.
And then find things that light you up. One
Yes.
of probably the things that makes me the saddest, and I work with a lot of women, is I ask them a question, what brings you joy? And
Ooh.
I would say 80 to 85% look at me with deer in the headlights. Like, what? What do you mean? And then it's either a child or kids or their spouse. And I'm like, no, keep everybody else out of it. What brings you joy? What lights you up? And
Yes.
again, I still get that blank look. And I'm like, what did you like to do as a child? And then they start to come back online. And they're like, oh, but I haven't
Mm.
thought about that, in 30 years or 20 years. And I'm like, okay, that's where the gold is. So
Agreed.
that's what I teach people. And so, yes, and the plants have an intelligence to support that whole process.
I love, what a powerful question. Just what brings you joy outside of other people. I
Yeah.
mean, I found myself asking myself that a few years ago, and it radically shifted the way I thought about my life. And it was, hey, I need to be in nature. I'm going to do things. I remember the last corporate job I had. I was the person that was like, if we are going to have a meeting, we're going to do a walking meeting. And everyone in my office was like, this she's so annoying, you know? I'm like,
I
I kind of
love
really
that.
don't care, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to be that pain. And people would join me on walking meetings. I'd go outside and walk, and like, okay, if you want to meet, let's walk, you know? And yeah, it's being in nature, being in sunshine, if, you know, like those types of things, riding a
Yes.
bike and being, you know, like play is so key. And it's almost like as adults, we think that like once you're quote, quote, an adult, joy is done. That's it, you
Yes.
know?
Why is that? Why do we
So
lose that
weird.
joy? Yeah, and
Exactly.
I've had a lot of athletes, and they're like, "Well, I get outside, I run all the time," and I'm like, "What would happen if you got outside and you actually noticed that the trees were changing color,
Yes.
that you started to
Yes.
meander a little bit and just connect?" And you go back to the 1970s and 80s in Japan, they coined the term forest bathing.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
doctors were writing prescriptions for people to go into the forest because it dropped their blood pressure. Their
So
natural
true.
killer cells increased, right? So they actually could prove with science that their bodies were healing.
It's so true. Being out in nature and just playing. One of the most fun things recently was a group got together, like all CEOs, executives, and this guy was like, you know, we're gonna play wiffle ball, and a bunch of us were like, really? On the sand, like at the beach. We're like, no one has time for this. And we all went out and we had a hoot. It was like one of the most fun. No cell
Oh,
phones,
that
just playing wiffle ball, everyone just cracking up. I mean, fun, like we need more fun and like silliness
yeah.
and play in our lives, being outside. I think it's just so, so key. So
We
key.
just take ourselves too seriously,
Too
you know?
seriously. Exactly. You know, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, life doesn't have to be this. It's like almost
Well,
like,
yeah, and I just wanted to add here, one of my mentors is Dr. Zach Bush. And I mean,
mm,
I think he's a triple board certified doctor, and he's really pivoted from, being a doctor to being an advocate for nature. And one of the things he opened with at a keynote that I was at a month ago was, we're all going to die,
yeah,
right?
it's true.
There, you can't avoid it, right? It
Nope.
is part of this journey. And he said, so why do we spend so much of our lives being afraid,
So
right?
true.
Holding on for dear life instead of living, right?
Agreed.
We're here to live and shine our light.
Agreed.
And yet we're in that grind and we forget it. We forget the joy.
Mm, I love, you know, some people find it to be morbid, but I actually do like thinking of the finality of life. I know that sounds really, I mean, maybe that makes me weird, but I'm like, you know, one day I won't be in this body anymore and it's a reality. So, man, I want to like that last day, I want to make sure I'm like smiling, laughing, dirty,
Yes,
like, you know, like crazy scandalous stories. Like people are like, oh my God, you really did.
absolutely. Yeah, you want to say like
Yeah,
I
I
lived this
lived.
full life.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That is it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, I'm curious, just thinking about, you know, there's so much, just talking about like the mentors, the research that you've done, the work. Where are you actually seeing plant stem cells be really effective in clinical settings?
Yeah, so we have a lot of big cancer clinics that are using
Right.
these. So for sure, they are phenomenal again because cancer is a toxic burden in the body and it's an immune
Mm,
system issue.
right.
And these address both of those. So that is one hands down, and we've got a lot of research that backs that up. But they're also phenomenal for digestive issues, for things
Right.
like diabetes, chronic issues. And that's where they really started to kind of get on the scene when they started healing chronic issues,
Right. Right.
right? And again, I believe because there's an intelligence in these plants that they have that intelligence that is connecting to our intelligence. And there's many things happening on levels that we don't see with our own eyes, but they are happening.
It's so true. And, you know, I think about a lot of Western medicine. You know, it's very much symptom management. Like, okay, you have X, Y, and Z. We're going to, you know, as you said, prednisone, this, that. We're going to, and some can argue there's a place for that. But I feel like oftentimes tapping into that intelligence, tapping into that root cause is just so key. Like, why do you feel like I feel like we're stuck. Is it just me, or like it feels like we're stuck in this symptom management paradigm versus moving to a place where intelligence, root cause, research is really the way that we think about healing? Well, why do you think it is that we're just stuck in this place?
I think part of it is we've been programmed that way, right? I
Yeah.
know back in the day before I was fully awake, back to who I was, I'd have a headache and was conditioned to go take an aspirin.
Mm,
Right. And we
yeah.
get an instantaneous result. Or I would, pull my hamstring playing volleyball or soccer and I would go take an Advil and it would feel better in 40 minutes. So I think we're in this instant gratification part of life where, we want something, we can get it like that. And I think that's part of it, part of that conditioning. But I think we are evolving now, coming back into the notion that our ancestors knew, that the indigenous people know, that whatever our body creates, we can uncreate. And we have an intelligence here. And when we work with that intelligence, we can heal. If we are
Mm,
going to block something over time, we will create another issue in the body. And that's why a lot of people are on 5, 10, 15, 20 drugs. The average
I know.
50-year-old is on 6 or more medications. And then
Crazy.
those medications over time cause degradation, and then they're on another one, right? And so it's a stacking event that happens. And I believe that we are extending death, not extending life. Because
Mm,
the quality of life of many older people is not great.
yeah,
And
it's
that's
so true.
because of the drugs, right? And so it's we're in a sick care system, not a healthcare system. And so it's part of my mission is to educate that these bodies know how to heal. We've just got to
Mm,
move out of the way of what's in the way and give the body what it needs, and then it will come back to life.
so true. So true. I'm curious. Walk me through, and I can think of so many people I know who are in their 50s and 60s that are on 10 drugs, 15 different things, and the side effects of those things are, really grave. But I will also say conversely, if I went to them and said, some of them, not all, like, hey, I'm going to give you you're going to get plant stem cells, therapies, they would be like, oh no, like I'm not doing this. This is like some woo woo
Woo
nonsense.
woo.
Like, no, yeah, this is like, woo.
Yeah.
you know, I'm
We,
curious, have you run into that type of situation? And have you
well,
had
yeah.
situations where people were skeptical and their body responded in a way that even you didn't expect?
Yeah, 100%. And there are, of course, naysayers. I learned in my change management days, a third of the people are going to get right on board and say, heck yeah, what's a plant stem cell? Give it to me. A third are going to say, let me see somebody else go through it first. And then the last third are going to say, no way, I'm not interested.
Right.
But I used to believe that you had to believe in something for it to work. But I have seen complete, different side of that. I've had somebody come in who had carotid arteries and they were looking at having stents put in and they really did not want it. And I said, well, what are some alternatives? And they said, well, do you think these could help me? And I said, well, I know they can. Let's go slow. And so we started slow. And while the body was cleaning up the carotid arteries, which had probably been there 10 years, right? That's going to not happen overnight. Their body created 2 new arteries to accommodate the blood flow to the brain and to the heart. And that we actually
Wow.
saw it on an ultrasound and on an
That's wild.
MRI. So we could see it and we were all shocked. I was like, well, I knew they could regenerate things, but it's like the body had the intelligence to say, okay, while you're cleaning up this, let's make sure there's no problem in the meantime.
Right.
And eventually the carotid arteries did clear out. It took about another year. It took a while. And this was a man in his 80s, his early 80s. And so
Wow.
he was able to avoid that surgery, which he really didn't want to have. And he said, why not? Let's try it. And so I've seen, so many magical things happen with
Incredible.
these that I think it's a surprise. At least once a week, something miraculous happens.
I'm curious too for the people who are curious. What are some signs that maybe our cells are crying out for help? They're like, help, please. And what can people do, even just one thing, to really reduce the toxic load in their lives?
Oh gosh, there's so many things we could do, but our bodies are always giving us signs, and that could be something like, an achy joint. It can be headaches. Chronic illness is one of those things that, you take the frog analogy. If you have a boiling pot of water and you throw a frog in, it's going to jump out. But if you put it in room temperature water and you slowly turn up the heat, the frog will stay in the water.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that is what we're going through right now is we are in a chronic illness time where 93% of the people in North America have a metabolic health issue.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means they're on the way to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Crohn's disease, some chronic illness, right? So it's at an all-time high. And a lot of that, is because of our air, our food, our water. I was at a conference a few years ago and I heard a man speak and he said, do you know what the biggest toxin is in the body? It's tire dust. And I went, what the heck is tire dust? How, I've been in the holistic health space for a while. How come I've never heard of that? So I had to go research it. I wanted to find the articles. And sure enough, tire dust, because everybody's driving. We're living in a world where, not many of us walk often in the US. And so we're breathing in these nanoparticles that are going into our bloodstream. And it's part of what's creating sticky blood. Creates high blood pressure, sticky blood, heart attacks, heart disease, all these things. So there are things that are affecting us that we don't even know about, right? We can put a water filter system on. We can eat organic. We can, make sure we've got an air filter in our house. We can do things like that. But tire dust, and now, the plastics, they say we're eating a credit card size of plastic every week. Well, now it's not microplastic, it's nanoplastic. We can't even see it. So we
Disgusting.
have these things, that's why my mantra is I want to get the toxins out faster than they're coming in.
Tell us, I want to get into our true or false, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about your documentary, which is incredible, and your book. Walk us through the journey in creating the book, the messages that you wanted to share. How did you even get a documentary created? Like, that is a whole feat. It's something I think about me shooting In the Name of Beauty, our YouTube series, and how much that requires. Walk us through the journey.
Yeah, again, divine. That's all I can say is I kept getting this message about being the steward for these plants. And I like that word. We have a tendency as humans to use the word, I own this, I own that. And nature was very clear with me. We don't own nature. Nature doesn't want to be owned, but we are the stewards of her. And so I sat with one day in my meditation and my journaling of how can I be the best steward? How can I really show up? And how can I empower people? I think this notion of the guru outside of us is gone. That's gone. And it's about finding the guru within. It's finding that wise, intelligent, intuitive parts of us. And so I said, well, I could write a book. So I wrote the book. And then while I was writing the book, I kept having this image of being on a screen. And I'm like, I don't really like to be on screen. So, and it wouldn't leave me alone. And, one day my marketing director came to me and she said, I want to do a documentary with you. I think your story needs to be told. And it's such an amazing documentary. And it's a way you can get these plants out and you could be a good steward. And she said the words almost that had come through me in my meditation. Wow. And I said, I'm in. I don't know what it's going to take. And, we did it in about 7 months. I flew her and another woman to Italy, 2 people. We did it all on iPhones. I don't think you can tell.
iPhones are amazing.
I mean, it was like everything just lined up. And then we finished the filming here. I live on 12.5 acres in North Carolina. And, it was like I believe that we are on our paths. The universe co-conspires with us and says, okay, right, that testing part, yes, she's committed. Let's see if she's going to take this and let's see if she's going to take that. And so I jumped all in and I said, okay, I've got this. And it lit me up. And I just, I believe that when we are in our integrity, we are going to call into us things that are of integrity, of like energy and like frequency. And so that's where I feel like I am in my life, that, I'm just shining my light and the right things are coming my way to step in.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. What a powerful, how powerful. And I think that that's just such a call to everyone. When you are getting those signs, when you are living in an alignment and like continuing, it's a journey, and to keep trying to be on that path. It's true. You have to trust, and things do come. I found that in my life, with like moving to Wellzest and doing different things, like stuff starts shifting to place, getting connected to you even, like
Yes,
what a gift, and divine serendipity in so many ways.
absolutely.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I want to move to our true or false, because we've got some juicy, juicy true or false questions to ask you.
Okay, let's do
I'm going to
it.
fire away at them. Just answer true or false. If you feel like you've got to, quickly clarify something to be in integrity, absolutely feel free to do that.
Okay, you got it.
Amazing. This first one: plant stem cells are just another marketing buzzword. There's nothing different about them. True or false?
False, false, false.
Yeah.
Triple false.
Wah, wah.
Exactly.
You can get the same results from regular herbal tinctures as from plant stem cell extracts.
False.
You can't measure whether plant remedies are working. It's all anecdotal.
Absolutely false.
Genetics are destiny. If something runs in your family, plants can't change that.
False.
Wait, I know I'm breaking the rules, but I'm curious. Wait,
Yes.
what? Can you
False,
explain
false,
that?
false. So in the documentary, one of our practitioners, his name's Dr. Dan McDonald. He came to me and he said, I know we're really breaking the rules here, but he came to me and he said, I believe that these plant stem cells are cleaning up genetic mutations in the body. Genetic mutations happen by our lifestyle, right?
Right.
So either people have MTHFR, COMT, all these genes, and so we actually did a study of 10 people. I know that's not a valid, statistically valid study, but in all 10 people, the genetic mutations cleaned up in the body. So we are destined
Wow.
by our lifestyle and by epigenetics. Genetics are 5 to 7%. That is it. So the way that we can get around heart disease from our father, cancer from our mother, is by living a different lifestyle.
Wow. Did not know that. Did not. What a great, wow. Next one, my mind is still like blowing, but next one, you can detox the body in a week if you just take the right supplements.
No, false.
So I'm going to break one more time. How, can you unpack that one? Sorry, I'm the one that's spoiling the game.
It takes time. Your body did not get toxic overnight. It's not going to clean up overnight. It takes time. And that is probably one of the most challenging things, is changing
Yes.
that mindset. As we talked about earlier, give me an aspirin, my headache's gone. Toxins build up in the body over time. And so you need time to unravel that.
Yeah, that's why. And I feel like there's so many people selling like quick 1 week detox, like it's just, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Great. I'm
Parasite
glad.
cleanse in a day. Nope.
Yeah, we gotta, like that one, no, debunk. The next one: if it's made from plants, anyone can make it at home.
I believe that's true. Absolutely.
There's no real science behind plant stem cells.
False.
Yeah.
I've
You
got
have to
plenty of it.
over.
I've got plenty
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. You're proof of this.
Yeah.
You have to overhaul your whole life to start healing.
That's a depends. I would say that really depends. It depends on where you are, body, mind, and spirit. But you can do it one step at a time.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire. I love this section. I'm going to ask you a few quick, spicy questions, some about your work, some about you. And, short, quick answer on some of these questions. So the first sign that your body needs a reset, this is personal for you.
When I feel tired, when I am not my bubbly self, I'm like, okay, I've been working a little too much. I'm going to clear my calendar and go fill my cup.
Yeah, me too. What do you think is the most overrated detox idea?
The fast fix, I'm going to, I've got parasites, I'm going to do a cleanse, and 3 days later, it's all going to be gone and I'm going to be back to normal.
How
The
about
quick fix.
the quick fix? Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm a marketer by trade. Marketers love selling you quick fixes. So folks, beware. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Just going to
Yes.
call it out. How about this one? The most underrated habit for cellular health.
Underrated habit is, I think, insulin. So, insulin resistance, that is one of the biggest things that wrecks our mitochondria and our cellular health. And it's in our food supply. I was shocked about 12 years ago when I started reading labels to find out there's sugar in a can of beans.
No, it's
Why?
crazy. Why?
Right?
It's
There
so
is
crazy.
sugar in everything. And so, that's a big part of cancer. It's a big part of diabetes. It's a big part even of heart disease. So insulin is, if you monitor it and you create metabolic flexibility, your cellular health is going to skyrocket and you will be healthy for a long time.
To me, what's so crazy, I spend a lot of time in France and other places, and I find it to be like a pervasive thing in the US. Not everywhere, it's not perfect. In France, there's still things. In Japan, there's still things. But the level of sugar is just like
Oh,
craziness, here. Like it's wild. Anyway, I
yeah.
digress. A plant you think deserves more attention this year?
Cedar of Lebanon. That comes from a 1,000-year-old tree.
Okay.
It is a plant that I've worked with probably for about 6 years, off and on. We like to call it Botox in a bottle on the side, but it literally, I believe that's why I look so much younger than I did 10 years ago. It has literally cleaned up my skin, my liver.
What?
Um, oh, yeah. And, I like to look at, I know again, we're digressing again, but I like to look at the plant to
Right.
see it in its natural state. And just the notion of a 1,000-year-old
Yeah.
tree, that thing has been around a long time and it has seen a
Yes.
lot, right? A lot
Seen
of
a lot
life.
of things.
Exactly. So Cedar of Lebanon is one of my favorites.
How do you take it?
Yeah, so they're all tinctures. This is what
You
they
do a
look like.
tincture. Okay.
This is my lymph health, and I have lemon tree here. So they macerate those plants in that organic grape alcohol or organic glycerin for about a month. And then they do the spagyric process. And then
Right.
there's a natural spiralization that happens. So it structures the tincture, making it more bioavailable. So literally, you put them directly in your mouth, or you can put them in a small amount of water.
And water.
And
Okay.
because we have all these nerve endings in our mouth, our body will absorb it very quickly.
Wow. Okay. Done. Cedar. Add to cart
Cedar of
moment. Another
Lebanon. I know.
another
Women are
add
like,
to
"Can I
cart.
have some?" I'm like, "Yes, it's really it's
Yes.
amazing."
Done. Done and done. A
Yes.
lab marker you would love to see improve.
HSCRP, which stands for C-reactive protein. It's the inflammatory marker. So when I run labs on people, that's one of the first things I want to look at is how much inflammation do they have in the body. And it's fascinating. We don't do this in the US. They do it in Ayurvedic medicine and in Chinese medicine, that there is always a correlation with an emotion or some other aspect happening in the life. And so, inflammation can be emotional toxicity. It can be emotional inflammation that then manifests in the physical body. So always look at C-reactive protein.
Amazing. A favorite simple ritual that you do before bed?
I literally give thanks to my body. And then probably a little strange to some people, we are accumulators of other people's energy. So before I go to bed, I say any energy that I have taken on today that's not mine, I give back with love and peace and kindness. And any of my energy that I've given away, I come back to myself through a filter because I don't want everybody else's stuff coming back. And I call it back to me clean and clear so that I have my wholeness before I go to bed.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to steal that from you. That's a really good one.
Please do.
That is a powerful one. A book that shaped how you think about plants.
two of them, I had a tie when I was thinking about this, that there's a great book called The Last Child in the Woods by
Okay.
Richard Love. And he talks about this concept called nature deficit disorder, which is our disconnect from
Mm.
nature. I think it's super powerful, one of my favorite books. And then the other one is called What Plants Talk About. And in that book,
Mm.
they mention that plants have 22 senses versus our 5/6, and that is why plants have this intelligence, because they don't have eyes, they don't have ears, but they can communicate, they can listen, they can see.
Wow.
So yeah, those two books shaped my understanding of nature and plants when I came back into integrity with
Wow,
myself.
I have to read those. Love, love, love. A wellness myth that you'd like to erase forever.
That something is wrong with aging.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, it's like, why,
so sick of it.
why can't we just age like
Yeah.
naturally? I I often will share my age because I want people to know it's okay.
Me
I don't
too.
need,
Same.
I feel like I'm 30, but I don't look like I'm 30. And that's okay,
It,
right? I look, I think I look younger than, almost
yes,
60.
you do.
But I'm proud, I'm proud of
Me
how
too.
I am. And my daughter is 28 and she went to an esthetician about 6 months ago and was told, you need to start Botox now and start freezing your face. And I just, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the messaging for these young, beautiful women.
It's
That
craziness.
that message can be interpreted by the person that something's wrong with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
Exactly.
that is the myth. No, let's age naturally. Let's be ourselves and let's be proud of it.
And be proud of it. Exactly. Like I talk about it all. I turned 40 this past year, and it was a huge moment in my life where I'm like, okay, 40s, but the amount of scarcity language I got from people, like, oh, when are you starting Botox? Oh, your, eggs need to be, boop, boop. Like, oh, I'm like, just, like you would think, like it was like, oh my
Like I'm
God.
like an old lady, like a
Yeah,
spinster
yeah,
already, right? Like I'm just
yeah.
40.
And just,
Yeah.
exactly, or I don't have kids yet, but even going to the doctor and they're like, well, if you do, you're gonna have a geriatric pregnancy. I was like, the only geriatric I see is your mindset. Like,
Yes,
get out of here with that
exactly.
geriatric mindset. Like,
And the crazy thing, and again, we're not taught this, that the body doesn't know the difference. So those thoughts that
exactly,
we have, right? That I
exactly.
feel like I'm 30, I feel like I'm 30. My body's like, yes, you are. Yes, you
Yes,
are.
exactly.
Right?
And you exactly. And you look like you're to me, I see people who are, no offense, like 20, like that don't they no, unfortunately they don't have the vibrancy and they look completely different. I think I agree. It's all about your internal and how you take care of
Yes,
yourself, like is the most important thing. Oh
100%.
yeah, yeah. Anyhow, the last one I want to ask you before we go into some of our wild trends, a myth about gemotherapy that you want to retire.
There aren't many myths because most people don't know about it.
Yeah, the truth.
But the biggest myth is the confusion between adult and the gemos. That's what I call them, the
Mm,
gemos. Is a lot of people think that they work the exact same way, and the mechanism of action is so different. So that is the biggest myth that I am on a mission. We actually have a second episode of the documentary coming out for that reason.
oh,
And that is going to talk about that. And every year now, we take practitioners to Italy to go see the whole process. And this coming year in 2026, we're actually going to do a biochemistry class so that the practitioners can really understand the difference, because there are confusions around it.
wow, that's amazing. Amazing, amazing. I want to break down some wild trends now. So, as we know on social, on the gram, on TikTok, there's all these wild trends, and I'm just always shocked. So, there's three that I want to run by you.
Okay.
Man, this first one, we kind of have been talking about this, but I keep seeing this everywhere. And now I'm in the TikTok feed because we're researching these, where I keep getting them. These overnight parasite cleanses.
Oh,
Is this for real or fake?
it's totally fake.
Right? What is happening? That's what I thought too.
And
I'm like
and
this.
people buy it because it's the quick fix. Hey, give me the
Exactly.
quick fix and I'll get these out. No,
Hmm.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
folks. We're giving that the
Don't buy it. Don't buy
don't
it.
buy it. Don't do it. This next one I keep seeing too. Plant stem cell peels. Are they powerful or just practically a joke?
Practically a joke.
Really?
No, that's not how the plants work.
No
No.
way. There's some brands that are gonna be. Mm-mm. I see
I
these brands
know.
like.
Although in cosmetics, that is the first place in the US where plant stem cells showed up.
Yeah, and right, and
And
this
in-
the peels and the things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Mm. And then this last one too. I mean, again, I think now I'm in the TikTok trap because we're researching these,
You
and I
can't
keep
get out.
seeing them all over the algorithms. Like, let me just give you all the things. Plant stem cell shampoos. I saw this gal washing her hair, and she's like, "Oh, this is a game changer." Is this super powered or pretty much just parting with your money?
I think you're parting with your money again,
Oh
unfortunately. Yes, I know. And that one, I will say, my husband tried it. It
no.
doesn't
Okay.
work.
No,
Yeah,
doesn't work.
he was like, "Oh, well, we'll try that. It's got the plant stem cells in it." No, it
Right.
didn't work. Yeah.
Oh, friends. All right. So you can't believe everything that is sold on TikTok. Don't believe
No.
it.
Yeah,
Uh,
TikTok, Amazon,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It can raise the eyebrow on some of these things.
Well, and I think this is why it's so important for us to gain that, that knowing inside, that wisdom
Yes.
inside, because we are getting blasted with buy this, buy that, this works, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's crazy.
it's
It's crazy
trust
out
what's
there.
in here.
Beware, friends. Beware. I
Yes.
want us to jump into our Reddit rabbit hole. So, speaking of social media, we've also scanned Reddit and we found some powerful questions related to the work that you do that we'd love for you to answer. This
Okay.
first one is in the No Stupid Questions subreddit, and this person says, "Can we use plant stem cells to treat stroke patients?" They go on, they say, I mean, stem cells can turn into whatever cell they need to. So, would we be able to get a plant stem cell and put it in a human stroke patient?
You sure can. And I did it with my mother. So my mother had had a couple of strokes. And yeah, there are plants for the heart and for the venous system and the circulatory system that work wonders. And
Wow.
my mom was actually in the documentary, and you could see the difference when she would take them and what, like the demeanor and everything afterwards. So they work wonders.
What were some of those plants, if you can share?
Yeah, hawthorn,
Okay.
favorite plants, really wonderful for the heart. Maidenhair tree was one for the brain
Okay.
that I was working with her, and then the other one was lilac for the arteries.
Amazing. Wow. And definitely, guys, watch the documentary. Watch it, watch it, watch it, because there's so much that's in the documentary. This next one that I thought was really, really interesting. So, this one was in the pregnant subreddit. I use skincare with cactus stem cell throughout most of my pregnancy. Am I screwed? This person said, I'm 29 weeks pregnant. So far, so good. Every check and ultrasound looked great. At the beginning of my pregnancy, I swapped out my usual skincare products for the ones without retinol, hydroxy acid, and I never knew stem cells are not okay until I came across 15 minutes pregnancy. The moisture I've been using throughout most of my pregnancy contains cactus stem cell. Am I screwed? Did I introduce some unknown harm to my baby that these checks and exams can't find out? I was baffled by this one.
Yeah, I don't have cactus plant stem cell,
Right.
but plant stem cells are safe. They do not have contraindications other than two plants, which is white willow and maidenhair tree, because they are blood thinners. Those would be the only two I would tell a pregnant woman or somebody on a blood thinner not to take. Outside of that, and that's where that myth between what an adult plant does and what a stem cell does, a plant stem cell, are so different. So these are gentle. They are not going to cause toxicity or any, damage to the baby in pregnancy.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. This next one was in alchemy, this subreddit. What's the current state of a scientific assessment of spagyrics, right? Did I say that right? I
Yeah.
feel like I'm about to butcher that. Okay. Are there any studies comparing compounds in a normal dual extract and spagyric tincture? I often hear the claim that adding calcinated body back into the tincture allows for the development of novel compounds, but has this been demonstrated?
I don't know about the second part of that, but spagyrics have been around a long time. I don't personally know of any studies that I can rattle off, but I am sure that they are there because there are probably about 50 companies in the US that are doing some level of spagyrics.
Interesting. Good to know.
And I know that Dr. Canillo saw that, that test tube with the
Oh,
water. Oh yeah, look, I've got a little
who's
buddy.
that? Hello.
That's little Lumi. She's been sitting up here saying, "Okay, Mom, what are you
Oh, welcome
doing?"
to the podcast. We have another guest. I love this. I always love furry guests. They're the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. So yes, there has to be scientific studies on spagyrics.
Amazing. And the last one before we jump out of the Reddit rabbit hole. This person just came out. This is the no stupid questions. This came out hot, and we're like, are essential oils a scam?
No, no, and no. I used to teach a week-long
Really?
class. I mean, essential oils are everywhere now, and that's part of the issue. And there are some that are adulterated and not good quality. That is part of why I sourced my own organic, because even a lot of the big companies are not organic, but they work amazing. I mean,
So true.
they work on hormones, they work on respiratory issues, they work on the immune system, they work on the eyes. I mean, plants are amazing, and organic, good quality essential oils can work miracles in somebody's life for a health crisis or
I think
calming people down.
calming
Actually,
people
in
down.
Japan and
Yeah.
other countries, they use lavender and chamomile in diffusers in the hospitals to calm people down before surgeries.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh my goodness. I always use I use a ton of essential oils. They're in our products, Clean Rebellion. We only use organic essential oils and extracts. And I use eucalyptus a lot, especially during the winter. It's just
Absolutely.
so healing for me. I love that. I love it. I love that thing. Everyone comes to my house. They're like, "What is going on? I mean, do you have koalas up in here?" Or like, "What is happening?"
You're like, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm the koala. Like, I need this.
Oh, yes, it's fabulous.
Uh, amazing, amazing. Time for our last segment. What's in your bag? I love this segment where you get to show us some of the things that you use in your work. So, Jen, show us what is in your bag.
I always have a lip balm in my bag, and I use a company called Tropical Traditions because it's
Ooh,
coconut, comes from coconut oil, and
okay.
it's got frankincense. That's it. That's always in my bag.
Love
And
that.
then I have, let's see, my reading glasses if I have reading. And I'm very minimalist. I have a very tiny purse that I got in Italy. And I always have these things called the good wipes in here. You just
Oh,
never know when you're going to need a wipe,
yep.
especially because of travel. And that's about it. I have a small little lipstick and my digestive enzymes, and that is about it. I'm a minimalist. But whenever I travel, I always am traveling with these and some kind of plant and essential oils I do travel with a lot.
Amazing, amazing. Is there a go-to from your brand that you always take when you travel?
Lime, believe it or
Lime.
not.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
lime zest actually helps with jet lag.
Oh, I didn't
And
know that.
back in my last banking job, I was working with a bunch of men, and they were all, oh my gosh, I'm so tired going from New Jersey to California, and we were doing it a lot. And so I would say, here, take some lime. And they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is crazy. I'm not dragging. And my boss was like, oh my gosh, you guys all smell like a bunch of lime trees. And I said, but hey, we're all awake and we're
We're
alert and
all
we're paying attention, buddy. We're not like, ah. So that's my
exactly.
favorite. I always travel, and you can put that in water, especially if you get stomach bugs or things like that. It cleans up your water and what you're drinking in your
Amazing.
gut.
Done. Another add to cart moment. Done getting that
Yeah.
one too. I'm just going to be like, after this episode, like add. Amazing. Now, tell us before we go, tell us what you're working on now. So there's another documentary coming out. And then where can everyone find you as well online?
Yeah, so a couple of places. So I do have a podcast too, and I would love to have you on my podcast.
Nice.
It's called The Wellness
Yay.
Sherpa. It's really about helping people come back to that person inside.
I love
So
that.
whatever it is,
Right.
energy, plants. I've had some really amazing people in there. So that's one way. And then I am writing my soul book in 2026. which is
No.
all about the healing process and how we get sick and why we lose the sense of self,
Right.
to help people not have to go through the great unraveling that I had to go through.
Yeah.
And just to give them tools and tips that they can do. So that's the second thing that's coming. And then we have 2 more episodes of the documentary coming. The next one is about the consciousness of plants and more of the science. And then the third episode is different practitioners talking about case studies and what they're seeing in their practice as a result of using these.
How exciting. Congratulations. And like as things are coming out, please share them with me and we'll send them out to all of the Wellzesters out there because I mean the work that you're doing is just incredible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
And so that company is Nature Provides, and there's a hyphen in there, nature-provides.com. And then the last thing I want to mention is I do have a healing practice. I have a building here on my property. I run that with my friend Helen, and we do all types of healing work with people. And we teach a class, mostly for women in coming back to self.
Amazing. We'll link up to all of it in the show notes and your website and information on the class as well. And we'll send it out to in our Wellzest Scoop email because everyone's got to know about all the amazing, just beautiful. I feel like everything you do is so beautiful. Like the energy around it is so beautiful. And it's very inspiring to see. So
Well,
thank
thank you.
you. Thank you
What an
so
honor to
much.
be here. You are just a bright light, and thank
Thank
you for
you.
including me and being here and for, walking in the world the way you do.
Thank you so much. Likewise. I mean, your wisdom and just turning all the things that to me, it's always such a testament to the individual when they turn the things that they've, gone through, and transform it into a facility to teach people and to educate and to empower people. I mean, thank you too for walking the way that you do. You're just inspiring and helping so many people and keep putting the work out there. I mean, it's just such a joy and I feel so grateful to be able to have this time together. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Till
Such
next
an honor.
time. Bye everyone.
Bye.